What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into Barlow Studios. Now, this is just a quick and very fun video of me creating a "Be Right Back" sign for any of the live video content that I host, whether here on YouTube or on TikTok. Now, I had originally recorded a nice intro to this where I'm in the studio talking about what I had done and what I plan to do with this "Be Right Back" sign. So I've been using the same kind of chalkboard like tripod thing for the very long time. When I'm away from the camera on a live, I'll go ahead and I'll put that in the frame, whether it's on the art canvas or the sculpture that I'm doing, and it just lets people know that, hey, look, I'm stepping away for a few minutes, whether that to be take care of the kids or do something for the wife or just go to the restroom or get a coffee, and I'm not in the area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a very nice grunge paint layer. So we're going to apply some sterling silver, a lot of gunmetal gray here in very thick layers, and we're going to create a very rough metallic look. And what we're going to do is we're going to age this with a multitude of washes of browns, and then we're going to introduce some texture along the way as well. I like using this technique overall for a lot of the grunge projects that I do. I do make a radioactive tumbler, an oil barrel tumbler, and similar items that I sell on Etsy. And this is the general concept that I go through, or process I go through to get the desired look that I want when I have aged metal in my projects. I also use this technique in the creation of the metal plate for the Mad Mike Studio 68 build, and that was building the base for that 3D item. So if you want to check that out, I actually sculpted a piece of clay into the shape of a piece of raw metal. We bent it up, we dented it, we curved the edges, and then we gave it a really rustic look with the same technique we're using here. So again, we're using a folk art gunmetal gray, and then we're also going to begin introducing just a light layer of sterling silver just to give it some really bright highlights. And you can see I'm very liberal in applying a stippling of paint to the surface of this item. And I do use a heat gun. If it gets overly heated and the paint starts to bubble in any way, it just adds to the character of the item. So now this is just the front of this item. Originally, this item had a kind of like a little tripod or a little stick that stood out in the back of it, and it just propped itself up. I don't have that anymore, and I don't plan to use that because I want this to be like kind of a universal sign that I can use whether I'm sculpting at my workstation or I'm working at the easel. So I will probably make this where I can hang it. So as this is dried out here, we can move on to the next stage here, and the next stage will incorporate some glitter. So I have some Mod Podge here already poured out into a small medicine cup, and I really like this technique. Now you can use anything that you have, whether that be sand or glitter or dirt from your yard, as long as you're able to get that cakey, sandy texture or grit that you would get generally under rust that's bubbling up under the metal, kind of pushing that existing paint that you may have there up and away from the existing metal, you're good. So you also just want something for all of the washes that we introduce as we go through the process to kind of sink into. And this really does apply a lot of 3D texture to it, and it really makes it look like a legitimate piece of to metal that is just deteriorating and rotting, and it adds a lot of character to the item. Don't be afraid to be very liberal with your Mod Podge there, but just kind of think about where the metal would be deteriorating if it were sitting outside for an extended amount of time. And I do like to apply a lot of wash drips to this. You'll see that here shortly, where I kind of just let the washes that I have just go run wild, and the washes do the job for you as far as showing you where water would accumulate on the item. So there's the glitter layer there. I know a lot of guys out there are like, I ain't using no glitter. And don't knock it till you try, brother. Go ahead and get all that off of there, and then whatever doesn't come off gets brushed off into the dump bucket. And then we'll put that back into Hijacks from Glitter Chimp. I'm out of the generic, so I'm actually using the expensive stuff now. So I'll probably have to order me some more black glitter here soon. You can go ahead and brush that off as much as we can. Try to save as much of that glitter as possible, because it's so expensive, but then the rest will just kind of just go into the bucket. All right, so with the glue pretty much dried up here, we're going to move on to the next stage here. Now I'm going to put my browns on the board that I'm working on. These are some like leftover backboards for some IKEA furniture that I ended up not using. So I hung on to them just for scenarios like this where I just wanted to apply some paint and then kind of throw them away later. So the two colors that I'm using here are a burnt umber and a raw umber. Of course, the raw umber is a lot more dirty and darker than the burnt umber. The burnt umber has a lot more of a reddish tone, and you want to introduce both of these depending on the overall look you want. I would not go with one type of brown for any of these projects. It really needs kind of a diversity of browns to really kind of give it the look that the rust is kind of in different stages of deterioration of the metal and or any kind of paint that would be overlaying on top of this. So if you wanted to continue on, you could apply more paint layers to this, and then you could age it again, and then you could put it to where like the paint is bubbling up over top of the existing rust. Here in a moment, I will go ahead and stencil on some lettering, and you'll see I'll even go over the glitter layer with that paint, and you can kind of see how it makes the paint look like it's bubbling up as well. You can see it's very, very wet, very runny, and I'm just letting it do its job. A lot of that will settle in that bottom groove of this little board here, or this little sign, as it were. But you just don't want to let it do its thing. And then when you feel like you've reached the point of the decay you need, just go ahead and put the brakes on it and stop what you're doing. Because if you don't, you'll just end up with a piece of you'll end up with a turd, just a brown turd with a little bit of silver behind it. Hitting that with a heat gun there, just make sure it kind of soaks it up a little bit, and then if you wanted to apply more layers, you could do so. Now here's the catch here. I'm gonna apply a little bit of gunmetal gray here, and a little bit of bronze. Not much bronze at all, really. I really don't know why I wanted to introduce a little bit of bronze around the top edges and corners, but I did. Maybe I just wanted to bring a little bit of highlight to that since it will be on the camera, or be, it would be the centerpiece while I'm away from the camera, so I kind of wanted to catch the eye maybe. Go ahead and apply that a little bit at a time, just here and there along the way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that gunmetal gray and I'm going to go over any of the rusted raised up sections very, very thickly. So I'm just going to let it kind of sit on the edge of the brush, and I'll just kind of like let it just scrape across the glitter layer there. And it's going to make it look like it's pushing that silver up and away from the existing metal formation. It really gives it a very in-depth layer, and it makes it look even more realistic when it's all said and done. All right, so instead of you listening to me ramble and rant here, I'm going to let you go ahead and listen to some badass music in the background, and I'll catch you back at the end of the silver painting process. So as you can see here, we're done with the silver layer here. I went ahead and hit that with a heat gun. We're going to reactivate our browns here, and we're going to do one more light layer just to kind of go over the existing silver that I had bubbled up over the glitter there, just to kind of just to tone that silver just a little bit, so it kind of blends in with the existing glitter layer there, and instead of it just looking like it stands apart and all on top. So it just kind of sets it back just a hair before we go on to the next stage. So as you can see here, we're finishing up with another heat gun, burning that water excess away, and here we are with the fully completed metal plate look texture. I really hope y'all enjoyed this part of the video. This is the first half of this project, and we're going to move on to the next stage here, which is the stenciling. But as you can see here, this overall decay and bubbling metal around the edges and the rust really do look really great. And I will come back later on and I will finish the back of that item, but I do that off camera with the same process. I just don't add the extras that I'm about to go through now. So I did print off on the Cricut a Be Right Back sign, just kind of keep it short and simple. That way I can leave some room for some blood. We're going to add a little bit of blood to this, maybe some bloody fingerprints or handprints or something like that. That may just adds a little bit of diversity to the item instead of just the yellow color that I'm going to use. Now the yellow color that I like to use for the majority of my hazard type tumblers or stencils is Folk Art Dandelion. It's a very thick yellow paint, and it really looks amazing on the majority of items. And I do kind of apply a brown wash to the overtops of those as well, just to kind of blend the existing paint into the background and the ecosystem of the metal as well. But it's a really great paint, and I really do enjoy using this. It's probably one of the only yellows that I have from Folk Art, and it is my favorite. Now I will apply probably about 2 layers in total to this. You don't have to apply 2 layers if you don't want to, but that's just what I chose to do. Usually as the first layer kind of dries out, then I'll kind of come back and give it another coat real quick while it's still kind of wet. Kind of a wet on wet tacky application there, but you don't want to let it completely dry, otherwise the decal or the vinyl here, which is temporary vinyl, will still pull the edges of that paint up because it is so thick. So just apply your colors real quick, even if it's just the highlights, and then just pull that vinyl up before it kind of gets to where it's stuck on the paint or stuck on the item behind. We're going to pull that off, and that is probably the most satisfying part about this entire process, is pulling up that vinyl. It's absolutely a blast to do. So during this process, I was working on a few Umbrella Corp blood zombie cups as well. I do sell those on Etsy as well, so if you're interested, definitely check that out at BRB Studios. However, I went ahead and applied some blood texture to this item, not only just some fingerprints, but some splatter. So here in a moment, you're going to run through that, and I'll catch you back in a little while. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy. Now, how absolutely awesome is that blood work there? Now, of course, this will darken up a little bit as that water evaporates, but otherwise, I'm so excited with how it looks. It looks absolutely incredible. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the back side of this, and then what we'll do is I'll apply a nice general clear coat to this. I think I use semi-gloss for this. You can use whatever you want. I just didn't want it to have absolute horrible glare if I have overhead lighting when the camera's looking down on it, but you can use whatever you want. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to quickly apply some ring kind of screws to the very top of that. We'll drill some holes, we'll get those in place, and then we'll get it to where I can hang it up on the easel. And just like that, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. We're going to run into what it kind of looks like hanging in the studio on my easel. As you can see in the top left-hand corner, that is the original, the Home Forever sign. So cute, so nice, but it is better now, I think, by far. Leave in the comments, do you think that I applied quite a bit of improvements to the overall design of this? I think so. I think the blood and the yellow really do contrast well against each other, and they really do pop, and that's the whole goal when it is on camera. Again, this is for my live videos when I do go live on YouTube or on TikTok, mainly TikTok, but I want to get that YouTube following growing more. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. I will catch you guys on the next awesome video. Later, guys.